Okay, good afternoon. Good afternoon. We're going to come to order. Good afternoon and welcome to the May 1st, 2018 convening of the Baltimore City Board of Municipal and Zoning Appeals. A few house rules before we get underway. First, if you have a pager, a cell phone, anything that makes any sort of electronically generated audible sound, plays a ringtone, a chime, etc. We ask that at a minimum you please turn those devices to a vibrate-only position, and similarly, to the extent that you need to have a conversation with someone, we ask that you please take that conversation out the double doors to your rear. The reason for those rules is pretty simple and straightforward. You'll note that there are a number of microphones which are arrayed around us up here, and those microphones are all very sensitive, not only for the purpose of amplification, but they're also for the purpose of recording these proceedings. And conversations, cell phones, pagers, etc., going off in the gallery don't just disrupt the general conduct of these proceedings, but also interrupt the recording of these proceedings as well. In addition, those of you who are sitting forward of the wall above you, if you turn around, you'll see that there are 1, 2, 3 video cameras which are mounted on the wall back there behind you. There are 1, 2 video cameras which are mounted on the wall up here behind us. Those video cameras are live, and these proceedings are being streamed on the website for the city's cable access network, as well as videotaped for subsequent broadcast on said cable access network and saved for all posterity on the city's YouTube channel. So conversations, cell phones, etc., general disruptions and the like disrupt that process as well. We will be voting at the end of the day on all the cases heard today, and you're certainly more than welcome to hang around and enjoy a civics lesson if you so choose. But if you have other things to do on this otherwise splendid May 1st afternoon, that's certainly quite understandable, and you can call into the zoning board office in the morning and find out how we ruled in your case. If you take out pen and paper, I'll read the number for the zoning board office off a couple of times, and that number is 410-396-4301. That number again is 410-396-4301. You will, however, need to wait until you receive the formal written notice of the outcome of your case, which should be forthcoming in about 3 to 4 weeks before you'll be able to get your permits. We ask that you please not build in the city of Baltimore without first obtaining all of your proper permits. Now, I was a little bit remiss in this the last time we convened, but those of you who are familiar with our proceedings, you'll note that for a while we only had 3 members of us up here, and we now have a new addition to our list of familiar faces, and that would be the most recent addition of Mr. Bill Cunningham, who is the mayor's latest appointment to this rather august body. Not senator, but Mr. Cunningham comes to us by way of first a 10-year tenure on the city's council from 86 to 96, and chair of the planning board, which was from 2008 until, I guess, just this last year, right? So Mr. Cunningham comes to us with a lot of practical experience and a lot of a history of extensive service to the city of Baltimore, and I know that you will join me in welcoming him to service on the board. Welcome aboard, Bill. Next, if you haven't already done so, we ask that you please sign in on our sign-in sheet, which is being held up now by Mr. French. The sign-in sheet allows us generally to know which, if you need to sign in, you just walk over, you can sign in. It's not disruptive at all. But the sign-in sheet allows us generally to know which cases have opposition, as well allows us to know who needs to receive those written notices of the outcomes of cases that I had spoken about earlier. In addition, we do have a couple of cases which are being postponed today, and to the extent that you're interested in one of those cases which gets postponed or we may even have subsequent cases which get postponed. We need to know who you are and how to contact you to let you know when those cases will be going forward. So please, if you haven't already done so, make sure that you sign in on the signing sheet. The procedures for when the cases are called is that when we read off the case, all the interested parties will come forward. The appellant will stand to our left or your right. The opposition, if any, will stand to our right or your left. You'll note that there are 2 microphones around there. Each side has its own microphone. But once everyone gets up here, we will get you all sworn in, and then once all those intending to testify are sworn, we'll then be starting off with the appellant, who'll be given the opportunity to present any information they would like to offer in support of their case. So any documents, witnesses, testimony, and the like, et cetera, that they would like to offer in support of their case, in addition to generally telling the board about what it is they're presenting and responding to any questions which the board may have. Once the appellant has concluded, we'll then turn the opposition and be given the opportunity to do the same thing, present their documents, witnesses, et cetera, in support of their position. Finally, we'll return back to the appellant and give them the opportunity to respond to any points brought up by their opposition, if any, and to offer a closing statement. We won't be going back and forth, however. That just tends to unnecessarily delay things longer than is needed. We will call the cases in the order in which they generally appear on our docket once we first dispense with some preliminary issues. First, we have some postponements, as I mentioned. First, 2018-46, 2018-47, 2018-48, 2018-49, 2018-50. These are properties from 2000 to 2008 McElderry Street. That case, or those cases rather, have been postponed until June the 12th. And so they will not be heard today. Next, we have 2018-115, 837-39 West Cross Street. That case as well is being postponed and will not be heard today. As I understand it, there are a number of folks who are here in opposition to that case, so please just make sure that you've signed in on the signing sheet so we can let you know when the case does go forward, as it won't be going forward today and is postponed. Last, we have 2018-133, 1214 Utah Place. That case has been postponed until May the 15th. So if you're here in reference to any of those cases, please make sure that you signed in on the sign-in sheet, but none of them will be going forward today. Next, we'll be addressing the consent, or I guess the cases on our consent agenda, and these are cases where the zoning board staff has reviewed the files in these cases, and the board has determined that we can proceed, we can approve these cases on a consent basis based upon the records submitted at this point. We're going to call the consent cases together as a group. When I do, the first person will come forward. They'll stand up right there. Everyone else will line up behind them down the dais. Once you're up here, we'll call each case in turn. You'll be given the opportunity at that point to offer any information that you would like to have added to the record at that time. And that's just generally how we'll proceed. All right. All right, first case on the consent agenda is 2018-40, 4015 Fleet Street, Jennifer Cuffley. Next, we'll have 2018-98, 1258 Battery Avenue, Lisa Junker. And we'll have 2018-100, 3721 Potee Street, B. Mikulski. And then 2018-106, 2821 Portugal Street, R.S. Sadas. Thanks, everyone. So if all those intending to testify can raise their right hands to be sworn, please.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. First case, 2018-40, 4015 Fleet Street, Jennifer Cuffley.
This is actually
Hi, I'm actually Rosanna Corbin.
the owner of the business.
Yes.
Okay, and you are, sir?
I'm Eric Tabor with Apple Signs.
Say that name again?
Eric Tabor with Apple Signs.
Okay.
Rosanna Corbin, Corbin.
What's your name again, sir?
Eric Tabor, Tabor.
Okay. Folks, we have this as an application to install wall signs at this location. Is that correct? All right. Mr. French, anything for the planning board?
Thank you. Martin French for the Baltimore City Planning Department. Planning Department has reviewed this application and the attached drawings and has no objection to this application. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Gentlemen or lady, do you have anything that you would like to have added to the record this time?
No, I guess not.
Okay.
That's good news.
Yes. Zoning board. Sorry. Zoning board. Yeah. Let's try that again. All right. Zoning board staff, having previously reviewed this application, we've determined that there is sufficient information to approve your appeal. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Next, 2018-98, 1258 Battery Avenue, Lisa Junker.
Yes.
All right, Ms. Junker, we have this an application to remove and construct a two-story larger addition, including rear deck, staircase, and rooftop deck at this location. Is that correct?
Yes.
Mr.
That is
French,
correct.
anything for the planning department?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Okay. And Ms. Junker, anything further you'd like to have added to the record this time?
No, thank you.
Okay, zoning board staff, having previously reviewed the application, we determined that there is sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Bye-bye.
Next, 2018-100, 3721 Potee Street, B. Mikulski.
That would be me.
Okay. Sir, we have this as an application to use the premises as a funeral home, is that correct?
That is correct. This is the owner.
Yes.
Okay, and
Colin
sir?
Harris.
Your name for the record?
Colin Harris.
Okay. Welcome, Mr. Harris.
Thank you.
Mr. French, anything for the planning department?
Yes, Planning Department has reviewed this application, noted that this property is located in the Brooklyn and Curtis Bay Business Area Urban Renewal Plan area. This plan contains design standards for rehabilitation of existing buildings, which the applicant should consult before beginning any exterior alterations or additions. And it also has standards for improvement of the parking area on the property. The department therefore recommends approval of this application, subject to the condition that all improvements to the property are completed in accordance with plans approved by the Planning Department pursuant to the Brooklyn and Curtis Bay Business Area Urban Renewal Plan. Thank you.
All right. Gentlemen, are you willing to agree to the condition offered by the planning department?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay. Anything further you'd like to add to the record at this time?
No, thank you.
Okay. Zoning board staff, having previously reviewed the application, we've determined that there is sufficient information to approve the appeal. Good luck.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Take care.
Thanks.
Next, 2018-100, 2021 Portugal Street, Aristatis.
Yes.
Afternoon, sir. We have this application to construct a second floor rear addition with rear deck at this location. Is that correct?
Yes.
Mr. French, anything for the planning department?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Sadis, anything further you'd like to add to the record at this time?
No, sir.
Okay. Zoning board staff, having previously reviewed your application, we've determined that there is sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you.
Good luck. All right. Next, we're going to address the remainder of our agenda, and that will include cases where opposition is signed in. Frequently, we found that opposition is a result of either a lack of communication or miscommunication among the parties, and it can be useful to offer the parties an opportunity to enter into a dialogue to see if they can resolve whatever differences they have between them. Obviously, if there are two opposing sides engaged in a dispute and those parties approach the board and ask the board to resolve their dispute, one of those two parties is bound to go away disappointed with the result. So this is your opportunity to avoid that unhappy fate. I'm going to read the cases off where opposition is signed in and inquire as to whether or not there has been communication between the parties at this point, and if the parties would like to continue to speak or to speak now. if they haven't previously spoken. You certainly don't have to take the opportunity to speak with one another, but we certainly do encourage and appreciate it. First case where opposition is signed in is 2018-13, 3618 West Forest Park Avenue. Kelly Miller. You can stay where you are. Okay, and have you folks spoken yet? I'm sorry? Yeah. Okay, would you like to continue any dialogue? Okay. You don't have to speak with another, as you said. Just have a seat, and we'll call you in turn. 2018-73, 118 Leadenhall Street. Mr. Woolman.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members.
Just seeing if the parties have spoken yet.
We have. We're going to proceed with hopefully a very brief hearing, but we are going to proceed. We haven't had a chance to speak with the parties some more outside and share with them further information, but I believe they'd still like to go on the record with some statements.
Okay, and ma'am, you still are opposed, you said? Yes. Okay, have a seat and we'll call you in turn. 2018-85 and also 2018-116, 848 North Utah Street and 846 North Utah Street.
Good afternoon.
Hi, folks.
Good afternoon.
Had
I'm
an
not used to being on
opportunity
this
to
side of the
speak.
podium.
I know.
Mr. Chairman, we'd like a 2-week postponement so that we can continue to speak about this.
Okay,
Both cases.
both cases. Sure thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, when you're ready to go forward, so you want to set it in now for the 15th?
Yes, please.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right,
Thank you.
thanks. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, so 2018-85 and 2018-116, 848 North Utah Street and 846 North Utah Street are postponed. Any others? The other one was postponed already. Okay. All right. Let's see if we can bounce through this. All right. 2018-13, 3618 West Forest Park Avenue. Kelly Miller.
I'm Kia Miller.
Okay.
And I'm Kia Miller.
Oh, it's Kia, ma'am? Okay. You can,
KIA.
all right, and you can come a little bit closer to the microphone. You can, it bends, so if you need to, you can. I hear one of those phones we talked about earlier. All right, Ms. Miller, we have this as an application to use the entire premises as a 44-child daycare center. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. If all those intending to testify can raise their right hands to be sworn.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Do we have staff reports?
Yes, we do. We have a letter from the president of the Forest Park Neighborhood Association, who is in opposition to the appeal. Have another email to our office from the treasurer from same Forest Park Neighborhood Association, who is in opposition. We have 2 other correspondence from residents of the neighborhood who are in opposition. We have 1 petition who has 17 signatures that are in opposition to the appeal. And then finally, a letter from the next door neighbor community association, being the Hanlon Improvement Association, who is supporting Forest Park Neighborhood Association's opposition to the appeal.
Thank you. Planning Department reviewed this application, Noted that this particular location does not have a suitable place for drop-off or pickup of children on this site. Forest Park Avenue at this point is a 3-lane roadway with parking permitted on both sides and is one-way eastbound, which would mean that vehicles would have to have their passenger side exposed to traffic coming from behind when they stop next to the curb to drop off or pick up a child. The department is concerned about the safety issues that this engenders and therefore recommends that to resolve this, the applicant should contact both the Parking Authority of Baltimore City to request establishment of a passenger loading zone in front of the property, and the Department of Transportation concerning possible methods of increasing infant and child safety within the Forest Park Avenue right-of-way at the location. The department recommends that approval of this application be subject to the condition that the applicant requests establishment by the Parking Authority of Baltimore City of a passenger loading zone in front of the property and requests street safety enhancements for the portion of West Forest Park Avenue nearest the property be considered by the Department of Transportation. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and Ms. Miller, are those conditions offered by the department, planning department acceptable to you?
Yes.
All right. Why don't you talk to us about what you are proposing here?
Well, we are proposing to have a child care center for 44 children. We're not sure if it's going to actually have as many kids at one time, but we do have a location now on Norwood Avenue, and we're not a disruption to our neighbors at all. We have retired neighbors now, and we've never had a complaint. We've been there for 8 years, and we have a
How large is your
good,
other location?
5213 Norwood Avenue.
How large is it?
Oh, it's 15 right now.
15 kids? Okay.
And at any given moment, we may have 2 cars dropping off at any given time. Usually
So
there,
is this a proposed alternative location, or are you relocating?
we're relocating.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you'd start off with your 15 kids, and then you're looking for permission to build up to 44. Okay. And the children you have coming currently, what ages are they?
6 weeks to 5,
Okay. And what are your hours of operation?
7 to 6. And normally the drop-off is maybe 7:30 to maybe 9, and then again at 3:30, 4 o'clock to 5:30.
All right. And what would your proposed hours be at this location?
Same, 7 to 6.
Okay.
And we do have a 4-car parking garage in the back already.
Did notice that. I was going to say, what's the situation like in the alley? Is that a potential drop-off point for children?
Yes.
Okay. Now, it looked like there was looks like the garage that's located there covers a big chunk of the backyard, but there's actually space that's available on either side. So is there like a fence or anything back there, sort of?
Right now,
What- Okay, sir, if you're going to speak, I need you first to identify yourself for the record.
I'm the owner. I apologize. My name is Devon Scott. I'm the owner of the building.
Okay. And now, Mr. Scott, you said that you're the owner of the building, so you'd be renting it to Ms. Miller?
Yes.
All right. And have you previously rented this property out before?
No, sir.
No, okay. How long have you owned it?
Owned it since 2015.
Okay, and did you used to live there?
No, I was planning to move there, but I changed my mind.
Okay. All right. And Ms. Miller, how many staff do you have?
3 or 4. Right now I have 2, but
Okay.
growth means more.
Just want to look at the floor plan here. And I'm sorry, is there a fence that's around the property?
Eventually we will, but right now there's no fence.
Okay, so currently there is no fence around any portion of the property? Okay,
Well, there's a fence where there's right now on the left side of the property. There's a wooden fence. What I was going to do is continue around on the right side and the back.
okay. Where would the children, I guess as part of their day, that they have to go outside for some portion? So where would that be?
That will be on the right side of the building, either right and the left side of the building.
When you say the, let me get oriented here. Okay. All right. So this is the property here.
Yes.
This is north. So from the photographs, it appears that the largest lawn area is located along this property line, which is to say the west property line.
I was looking at this right here. and
I know.
this- Okay.
I know, but I'm saying, looking at the map, because this allows us to be able to tell which way is north.
Okay.
So it looks like this property line over here that goes, no, let's have it reversed. Looks like it's on this side, so it's gonna be the east property line.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. And is that where you said that the fence is, or is it on?
That's where it's gonna be.
Okay.
Gonna be. The entire property I plan to fence. If I can show you what I wanna do. Start the fence right here at the front of the porch.
If you could turn it so everyone else can see.
Start the fence right here at the front of the porch, travel around to the back, and fence and connect it to the garage area, as well as this side, to the front of the porch. All of this, the front will be open.
Okay. And you said that the garage is a 4-car garage?
Yes, sir.
Okay. It can fit the 4 vehicles?
Just easily.
Okay, all right. There's no, like, storage, et cetera, that's back there?
No.
Okay. All right. Anything further for right now?
And I have a petition signed by some of the neighbors as well, and a letter from one of our previous neighbors. Should I turn it
Okay.
in?
What's the property presently used for?
Right now, it's vacant. I was gonna use it as my home.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions for right now? No? Okay. Ma'am, if you can state your name for the record?
Sharon Bradford, and I'm the president of the Forest Park Neighborhood Association.
Okay, and Ms. Bradford, if you can pull that microphone around. Okay. And I guess you're in opposition to the request?
Yes, we are.
Okay. And what's the nature of your opposition?
Well, impeding traffic. We have already requested a comment report back in January on Callaway for the number of accidents that happened there and the traffic that is heavy. And Forest Park, West Forest Park is a one-way street. There is approximately about 4 parking spaces that you can get in front of our homes. Most of us are senior citizens, and walking could be a chore. Also, in the city's comprehensive master plan, it states that there is an extensive daycares in the West Forest Park area. When I looked at the urban renewal plan, it also states that daycare, we can have it in our area, but only in the commercial area, not in a residential area. So that is our opposition. We also want to take it from a safety view. Our livability score is a 48 as of today, and we want to bring up our area. We have green space that we have adopted a lot, but we are working on improving our area. That's what we're looking forward to doing.
Okay, and you feel that daycares will cause the demise of your residential neighborhood?
I'm not gonna say it's a demise, but it's gonna change the dynamics of the neighborhood, that's for sure, especially with the heavy traffic. We already have some homes that are multifamily homes in our neighborhood. We have a daycare within the proximity of a block down the street and a block around the corner, and on that same block is another daycare.
Okay. Just so that we can, because you had mentioned the urban renewal plan, and I guess since you did bring that up, Mr. French, is there anything from the planning department on that?
Planning Department notes this is not technically an urban renewal area, does not actually have an urban renewal plan. It does have a plan, which is the Greater Northwest Community Coalition Strategic Neighborhood Action Plan. I believe that's what she is referring to.
Okay.
And yes, it does contain some goals in it that relate to things like strengthening the commercial area and the residential area separately.
Okay.
Does planning have a position?
Our position was that if the applicant was to make requests for establishment of a passenger loading zone in front of the property from the Parking Authority of Baltimore City, which would be the decision-making body in that case, and also to request some type of traffic safety enhancements along Forest Park Avenue in this area to make it less likely there would be problems with drop-off and pickup of the children, that the department would accept approval of the application, would recommend approval of the application, but subject to those conditions.
And ma'am, just for the record, I believe that you had accepted those conditions, that's correct?
Yes.
Okay. Ma'am, to return to your point, so this request is for a child daycare center. The zoning for this area is R1. And in this zoning district, daycare centers are conditional uses, which means that they are presumptively valid uses unless there's something intrinsically wrong with this request in this particular area in this particular location. And I think that the issue which planning has raised as a concern, and I think you have as well, regarding traffic, the planning department is making a recommendation that the applicant, as she has agreed to, request the addition of a passenger loading zone in front of the property in order to address concerns with traffic and safety. And further, the applicant offered that she would have drop-off done in the rear portion of the property so that cars weren't on the street for drop-off.
May I speak?
Of course.
Okay. You say in the rear portion of the building, it's an alleyway, and that's even smaller than West Forest Park Street.
It is. The city's tax map shows that it's a 15-foot alley, which is it's certainly, it's smaller than the street, but it certainly accommodates vehicles. It's from, I guess, as compared to a lot of other locations, it's a little bit wider than some. We'll return back to you in a moment. Were there any other points that you would like to make at this time?
No, but there are some other people from
Yes.
No.
Okay. Ma'am?
Hi, I'm Sandy Graham. I'm the housing chair.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I didn't hear your last name.
Yes, Graham. Yes, with H. Well, my concern is, because the 6th district, she'll be moving in 6th district, and it's pretty much a high crime area, and a lot of We've had a lot of shootings. We've had a lot of break-ins. So my thing is for her to really consider that, you know, to put that into one of her consideration before bringing children there. So that was my concern and my
Okay.
main concern.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ma'am?
Good afternoon. My name is Cynthia Harris.
Afternoon.
And my reason for opposing was for the safety of the children. Looking at the front of the house, there was no gate. There's no gate in the back. I was also considering the older people that live in the area to the right, to the left, across the street, with children and stuff being in and out. It's a quiet neighborhood, and when the children have to come outside, which they normally would, it could disturb the older people across the street that could be napping. You know, I was just trying to basically be in consideration of the older people as well as the safety of the children.
Okay. Anything further right now?
No, that was all.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, sir. Since you weren't up here when everyone else was sworn in,
Yes, sir.
You can raise your right hand to be sworn, please.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely, yes.
Your first name?
Antoine?
Your name is Burton?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So we're here in support of the residents of the community. Our church sits at the 3800 block of the neighborhood in the commercial district. So we hear their concerns. A lot of the neighborhood meetings, a lot of the seniors really have major issues, and had a chance to sit down with Ms. Bradford to hear her concerns. She has some legitimate concerns with the daycare center, and certainly we want to, you know, continue to encourage them to grow their business as well. But on the back end, especially with the Family Dollar that was just built on the top of the block, there's a lot of traffic that's going to head down to where they live at, and we have to take that into consideration. With that Family Dollar being at the top of the block, we have two churches at the top of the block, our church as well as another church, and you're going to have a lot of traffic that's going down into that neighborhood district. So that's something that needs to be taken into consideration.
Okay. Is that it?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you very much, Pastor.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. All right. Ma'am and sir, I think that you would want to say something.
It's my understanding that the drop-off is it's like maybe 5 minutes in the morning, maybe 5 minutes in the evening. So
Per child, sure, but as far as a process, you know, I think as Ms. Miller testified, it covers a period of time.
And just to say a few things on their concerns, like right now we live in a block with retired neighbors, and like we've never had a complaint, and if we have to set up a schedule or something to accommodate the neighbors, we're willing to do that. And as far as the traffic, like normally the church events probably won't conflict with our daycare times with the drop off and pick up. So I don't see like how the Family Dollar and different other things in the area will affect the traffic with us as well.
No, I think that the pastor's point was simply that with the Family Dollar located there, that it's going to, it's a commercial magnet, so presumably it's going to draw traffic that some portion of it will utilize West Forest Park Avenue to get there. I think that that's what that concern was, and so it's, again, going back to the concern regarding traffic and safety, et cetera, and I think that you addressed those both in the request for a passenger loading zone, which you've agreed to, as well as the drop-off in the rear of the property as possible ways to mitigate that concern. But you know, the concern is there nonetheless.
Yes.
Anything further?
No, I
One
think.
quick question. To my understanding, the Family Dollar is located on, I think is it Belvedere? What's that street?
It's on Forest Park. Yeah, it's on Forest Park.
The building sits on Forest Park.
Yes.
The entrance.
It's going to be on Forest Park. Entrance is on Forest Park, yes.
Excuse me, do either of you live in the neighborhood, general vicinity?
No, family. I have family in the neighborhood, but no, don't live on the neighborhood. But we do have partnerships with people in the neighborhood. Like we are partnered with the Liberty Judy Center already at Liberty Elementary, which is walking distance away. And we've had a partnership with them for a while where they do trainings with us. We go and do activities. We take our kids and do activities there because the daycare that I have now isn't far from that area. We've also gone to the Wayland Senior Home and sang songs to them and done different things. So, and we've already reached out to the neighborhood association to try to build a partnership with them as well. And, you know, we are aware that the education department received a low grade on some type of rating, and we already offered to assist with building the community. So I know it wouldn't be a demise to the area. It would be a great help. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further? Sure. Though remember at the beginning I said we weren't going to be going back and forth.
I want to say that we did speak with Kia on the phone the other day, and we offered her to support her if it's a location on Garrison, 3005 Garrison Boulevard, that was already a school that's no longer there, and we said that we would work along with her on that. So to put that out.
Okay.
And just with this, like, we've never seen it. I have no idea. And Forest Park is a little more busy than, you know, this location. Just even with, you mentioned the crime and things like that, I think it's more at that location than where we're asking.
Okay. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you. (2018-19) 532 through 534 North Belnord Avenue. Mahmoud Nakle.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Sean Harvey, I'm an attorney. I represent Mr. Naki.
Okay. All right. And who's with you, counsel?
This is Mr. Zorzat. He is the owner of the building. He's the landlord.
Okay. All right. And counsel, I have this as a application to use the first floor as a grocery store. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. If all those intending to give testimony can raise their right hands to be sworn.
You swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. All right. Do we have staff reports?
Yes, Planning Department has reviewed this application and notes that this property is potentially eligible for approval for the neighborhood commercial establishment use. The department is recommending approval of the application, subject to the condition that all requirements and standards contained in the zoning code, particularly including signage standards, are complied with by the applicant. Thank you.
Okay.
And Mr. Naki would agree to that.
Okay. All right. Counsel, why don't you talk to us about what's being proposed here?
Mr. Naki proposes a grocery store. It's on the corner of Belnord Avenue and McKeldry Street. He intends to sell fresh food, milk, eggs, bread, you know, staples. He has experience in that regard. He's already begun remodeling this vacant building. It's not used for anything right now. Years ago was a tavern. It's double wide on the corner, as I said, on the corner of Belnord and McKeldry. And he wants to bring to that neighborhood a tax-paying business, which would benefit the community.
Okay. You said that the property, I guess that he's already begun renovations of the property?
Well, yeah, cleaning it out, that sort of.
Sure. So the property is unoccupied currently?
Currently it is, yes.
Okay. You said that it had previously been a tavern, is that right?
Years ago it was, I think it was called Belnord Tavern, as a matter of fact. And this was before the board, I think in 2012, for conversion to a grocery store at that time, but it didn't meet the zoning variance regulations. Now it has. Since last July, they've changed, and so it does meet the requirements under Article 32, Section 14.328 of the Baltimore City Code. So.
Okay. And what was its last use?
believe that was it.
I'm sorry, sir?
A tavern.
Okay, and when did the tavern close?
A lady retired and sold a liquor license, I don't know, maybe about 10 years ago, but I'm only guessing.
Okay, so sometime within the last 10 years, I guess?
So,
Let's see, we've got a lease here. Okay, any other questions?
Sir, you're the property owner,
yes, sir.
not the operator.
No,
Do you own many properties in the neighborhood?
we do own, yes. I would say in that area, maybe 10.
And mostly residential or?
No, all commercial.
All commercial. Okay.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much,
Yeah, I
gentlemen.
got one more question. How do you know that the operator is going to actually offer fresh, you said fresh vegetables
I'm sorry, sir, I didn't.
Well, are you speaking to me, or?
to whomever?
Okay, well, I'll tell you, I spoke with him at length about what his plans are for this grocery store. He's selling groceries, and includes,
Well, I'm asking because a lot of stores are called grocery stores and you couldn't find any groceries in them.
yeah, well, this one you'll be able to find groceries, I assure you. Fresh vegetables, milk, you know, all the staples, plus whatever else is sold in a grocery store, I guess. Laundry
Do we know
detergent.
how many other grocery stores are in the general vicinity? Or convenience stores, or whatever?
Well, it's not, it won't be,
Staff reports or planning have a position on it, or any information on that?
We do not have information concerning that. At least I don't have it with me. I would imagine our sustainability office could provide that because they've been working on food priority areas.
I suggest that you add that to your reports in the future. With
So noted.
Similar facilities, we request.
Anything else? Okay, thank you.
for your time.
Thank you.
Next up, 2018-73, 1118 Leadenhall Street, Joseph Woolman. Okay, Mr. Woolman.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
Afternoon, sir. We have this as an application to use the premises as a government facility.
That is correct.
You're going to meet the camping city hall to Sharp Leadenhall? All right. If all those intending to give testimony in this case can raise their right hands to be sworn.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
All right. Do we have staff reports?
Planning Department has reviewed this application and has no objection to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Woolman, why don't you tell us about what's being proposed?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. First, I'll just submit for the record a memorandum of law, copies for the board. I have a copy here for Ms. Bland Thomas as well. Regarding conditional use, I won't bother the board with an oral argument regarding that. I believe the board's familiar with the standards and the presumptions regarding conditional use. This is an R7 district. It is a row house structure that is privately owned. The request is to operate a government facility at the location. I do have Colonel Robinson here from the Baltimore City Police Department who can describe somewhat in some detail what the proposal for the use is. I would state, and we've discussed this with the folks in the neighborhood to my left, that it's a somewhat unusual request in the type of operation that's taking place there. I also have with me Councilman Costello, who submitted a letter in support of the request, and I also have Pastor Alvin Gwynn, who's also a community leader in the neighborhood, to testify on behalf of the request.
Okay.
So with that, I'd ask the Colonel, unless the board had questions for me, to explain to the board what the request from the police department for that house is.
Yes, Colonel.
Yes, for the record, I'm Colonel Osborne Robinson III. I oversee Inspectional Services and Integrity Division. I am the chief of that unit. Based on the consent decree, we must be in compliance with running certain types of audits for compliance as well as integrity testing that has been brought out, which is, in general terms, we try to create artificial situations to test officers for the compliance of policies as well as law. This particular site would be used in an administrative capacity simply for the officers that work out there in a non-uniform capacity to complete reports, store data, and do things like that.
And Colonel, it's my understanding that there'll be actual offices in this structure. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Sorry, we're trying to share the microphone here. And it's my understanding your testimony today would be that the establishment, location, construction, maintenance, and operation of this use would not be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, or welfare. Is that correct?
It is correct.
And it's my understanding that your testimony today would be that this authorization for this use would not be contrary to the public interest. Is that correct?
That is correct.
I have nothing further for the Colonel at this time.
Okay. Colonel, I didn't see that there was a floor plan or anything, and although I think you did say that the use would be administrative in character, and there would be an office use that would be made of the property. Is it correct?
That is correct, and that's the only use for it.
Okay. And it looks like it's is it 2-story or 3?
It's 2-story. I think it's 2,000 square feet total.
Okay. Next witness.
Pastor Glenn, please introduce yourself to the board.
Good afternoon. I'm Reverend Dr. Alvin Gwynn Jr., pastor of Shoplet Knoll Baptist Church.
And describe to the board your role in the neighborhood there where this is located.
I'm currently the senior pastor at the Leaden Hall Baptist Church. I also work on a number of the community organizations and also a number of groups that work and operate within the community as well.
And we've had an opportunity to review the request from the police to use this particular house on Leaden Hall Street, correct?
That's correct.
And my understanding, your testimony today would be that this establishment, location, construction, maintenance, or operation of this use at that location would not be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, or welfare. Is that correct?
As a member of the Baltimore City Police Department for 23 years, and I've worked out of operational buildings like this, that is correct.
And my understanding of your testimony would be that the authorization for this use would not be contrary to the public interest. Is that also correct?
That is correct.
I have no further questions for Pastor Glenn.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the pastor? All right. Councilman.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Eric T. Costello, Baltimore City Council, 11th District.
I believe the board is in receipt of a letter from the councilman in support of the request. I don't know if the councilman would like to share anything further. We have had an opportunity to discuss the concerns, if for the lack of a better term, of some of the folks that have signed in regarding this case. I don't know if the councilman cares to share anything in furtherance of his support of our request.
Fully in support, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I think the letter pretty much says it all. I was outside and privy to the conversation between Colonel Robinson and community members. So that was a very productive conversation from what I observed.
Okay. Any questions for the councilman? All right.
I have nothing further other than to submit on our memorandum of law and the testimony before you today.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies?
Good afternoon, Commission. My name is Betty Bland Thomas. I live in Sharp Leaden Hall. Been there for over 30 years. My neighbor and good friend Dorothy Fajarno has lived there for 75 years. Our main concern is our community has suffered a lot of disinvestment over the years. It's been shrunk to the small area that it is now, and we have worked very diligently to keep our community engaged in all activities that affect us. We have a transitional program for drug addicts, a 90-bedroom facility that's done very well. We have a new 300 luxury apartment in our community that hopefully will do well. It's about one-third occupancy. We have historical churches in our area, which Pastor Gwynn has eloquently stated he is the pastor of. We have sports facilities in our area. We have a light rail station in our area. But as seniors, what we don't have in our area is our own real space. We're working very hard with our youth, and we see this facility as an impact, a racial impact for us. We're predominantly a very diverse community, and we think this location can better be suited someplace else. The only place our children are safe or feel comfortable is in their own community. We become gentrified, so they don't generally go to the harbor. They go in Federal Hill, they're often followed by the police when they go there. But in our own community, we have a recreational facility that has done a great job in keeping our kids active. I think because urban communities oftentimes are the product of unsmart development, we have contributed greatly in our space and to our city to be engaged in things that would help improve the city. I think this facility, as the police officer has described it, the impact, we can't even begin to judge. We have nothing in writing other than their words, what they say that's going to happen there. But I do know that our community is a low crime area, and when the police show up, sometimes people get scared. You know, not too long ago, not necessarily in Baltimore City, but blacks have been killed by police. And what we want to do is have a better relationship with the police department, have them walk through our neighborhoods, get to know us. I think a facility that's meant to work with police officers who might have broken the law, this is not the place for this type of building. We're trying to create a more environmentally safe, engaging, area. I think that the fact that neither of these gentlemen came to the community beforehand, we only got notice thanks to this board. This is the last opportunity we get to execute our rights as citizens. No, I could not afford an attorney. I did call the Community Law Center, but it takes them 4 weeks to show up. So I stand before you very humbly in saying that there are thousands of other buildings that this facility could be best suited. Let us continue to have our space to be diverse as it is. Let us continue to represent our community as best that we can. Not every zoning is the best for the community. Some zoning only benefits the developer. I guess I can't add anything else, not being an attorney, but standing before you very humbly and saying, enough is enough. I think we've given so much. I just ask that the board not support this at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Ben?
I agree with
You can come around.
My name is Dorothy Fajardo. I'm a member of the community. I agree with Betty. That's all.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Mr. Woolman?
I have no questions for the witnesses, and I'll again submit on our memorandum and the testimony before you. I don't believe there's been any testimony to rebut the presumption under the law for the conditional use. I believe we meet the definition for the conditional use, and with that, I'll submit.
Trying to find this, the description of the proposed use is kind of vague.
Under 1307, government facility is defined as a structure or land that's operated by a government agency. Inclusions include agency offices. I think that's the one that speaks most specifically, but I agree it's a fairly vaguely defined use regarding the language of the code.
Well, I specifically was thinking more so of the nature of the, I guess, the exact nature of the proposal that's being made right now. I can understand that for certain uses, less information would be more appropriate, possibly. Though if that were the case, it would be somewhat of a question whether or not those kind of discrete uses would be most appropriate next to a school. So I'm just trying to think of, as far as we write this up, because, government facility includes agency offices, storage yards, public works facilities, and utility facilities. So if we just write an approval saying that, well, this property is usable for a government facility, technically, I guess the city could put a sewage treatment plant there, if one could fit on the block, on that particular location. But, so I'm just trying to get a little bit more information about the precise nature of the use for our purposes so that we can reflect that in any approval that.
I understand the chairman's question, and I've had some conversations with Colonel Robinson regarding that question. For various reasons, and as I've indicated earlier, this is an unusual request regarding some of the discretion related to the type of use and the use not being located at a police building. There's a reason behind that. But with regards to the police's use of the building, it will be my understanding, and the Colonel can correct me if I'm wrong, administrative in nature, and the only thing that anyone's going to see being moved into the house, from my understanding from our conversation yesterday, is desks and office furniture. Perhaps the Colonel can elaborate further.
Excuse me. His characterization of the use is spot on. That's exactly what we're going to use, and again, it is sort of delicate. It's not something that we want everyone to know that we're there. And for that reason, you would never see an officer in uniform going there. You would never see prisoners being transported there. That's not the use. The use is that we don't want to have the officers who work there operating in the same areas that their peers do on their during their normal tour duties and during their occupying other office spaces, because those audits will be conducted. The folks who work out of that building will be conducting audits against their peers.
Okay.
So, sort of like that. So it's just
use would be police officers only.
Yes.
And can we characterize it as office use only?
That's all that will be taking place out of there.
My concern is that, as you mentioned, it is very close to a school. It's also right next to a playground, as well. We have nothing in writing on what they plan to do or to have a better understanding other than what we're just hearing right now. Even the planning department did not take a position, on this case. I think, as I mentioned, the history of our area, we've been impacted so greatly, that there are ample locations where this could be better served, that if you're bringing in crooked cops to be interviewed to see if they've broken the law, that could be done someplace else.
Not necessarily. There's been.
Well, that's just a worst case scenario, but suppose that is the situation.
If I may. Sure. The space will be used solely for the officers who work there. It's not going to be used for officers to bring back any type of a person being charged of a crime, suspected of a crime, or anything of that nature. They have to maintain reports.
So it's going to be more administrative in purpose rather than operational.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it's going to be used for.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, 2018-91, 2000 East 30th Street, Ray Gilbert. Okay, sir, are you Mr. Gilbert?
Yes, sir.
Ah, okay. All right, and Mr. Gilbert, we have this as an application to continue to use as 3 dwelling units and use the lower level as an office. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Folks, if all those intending to give testimony can please raise their right hands.
Swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Do you have staff reports?
We do. We have one letter from the Executive Director of the Coldstream Homestead Montebello Community Corporation, who opposes this appeal, who's also signed in to give testimony today. We have a letter from the President of the same community corporation in opposition. We have correspondence to our office from a resident of the community who is in opposition to the appeal. And we have a letter from Councilwoman Mary Pat Clark, who is here to testify, so I'll let her read to what extent she wants the letter to read herself. And then associated with her letter is correspondence between her and Ms. Katie Byrne from the Department of Housing, who is confirming for Ms. Clark the length of time that the said property has been vacated.
Okay. Mr. French?
Thank you. Planning Department reviewed this application, which is proposing a neighborhood commercial establishment conditional use in the basement portion of this building and a continuation of the residential use of the upper portion of the building, the upper 3 floors. The department notes that ordinarily neighborhood commercial establishments as a conditional use can contain offices or other typical uses. This property was last authorized for use as a multifamily dwelling and as a retail goods establishment with no alcoholic beverages sales. However, this latter use has been closed for over a year, according to information available to the department. More specifically, the department is noting that the zoning code provides certain findings to be made in order for a conditional use to be approved by the board. And among these is that establishment, location, construction, maintenance, or operation of the conditional use would not be detrimental to or endanger public health, safety, or welfare, and the authorization would not be contrary to the public interest. The application requests continuation of a form of commercial use in an area that has found, over decades of unfortunate experience, that commercial use of the property in any form is incompatible with quiet enjoyment by residents of this part of the larger neighborhood. Accordingly, the board may find that reestablishment of commercial use of the property, which under the preceding zoning code had been a non-conforming use, should not be approved as a conditional use. The department notes that the basement could be suitable for residential use. This property is located in the Coldstream Homestead Montebello urban renewal area, which does not prohibit or further restrict the proposed use in this district today. However, the department notes that there is a city council bill now in second reader as of this writing, which would prohibit neighborhood commercial establishments within this urban renewal area. The bill was introduced as a result of the community's desire to limit the negative impacts of commercial establishments on the immediate neighborhood. And this location is considered unique by the department as compared to similarly zoned areas elsewhere in the city. And for this reason, this appeal should be denied. The department therefore recommends disapproval of the application. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Martin, what'd you say about the city council bill?
City Council Bill 18-0183 is in second reader as of this time. Understood. At the time the memo was written, this bill was in second reader. Now, the councilwoman can testify to the current status of the bill. Thank you.
can be a little bit out of the order, but if Councilwoman, if you can update us as to the status of what Mr. French referred to as pending legislation.
Yes, and it was pending when we got 100% approval at the Planning Commission for the legislation, which is 18-183, Coldstream Homestead Montebello Amendment Urban Renewal Plan. So basically, that was signed into law by the mayor on the 24th of April. It is sort of a surgical approach to what is Chum's concerns and fears about neighborhood commercial facilities as a use in the zoning code. And so, rather than try for some citywide ordinance.
Councilwoman, do you have text of the legislation?
Yes, I do. No, that's my letter. Do I have that with me in that? I'm sorry. Lord knows I should have it. Is it in the packet? Oh, I'm sorry. Here, may I give you my packets?
Sure. If you,
I'm sorry.
no problem sharing it.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
No, that's fine.
I'm not used to being first.
Like I said, I know I was calling you out of order.
2, 3, 4.
Good.
Don't leave me.
Yeah.
Stephanie, so here's for the board and your director. And I'll give you a copy in a minute, or whoever ends up being the owner here. Wait a minute, the law, yeah, the law, okay. In blue, in your packet, is the law. And basically, what it does is it prohibits the blue, and you can see on the back, it's signed into law. Do you have enough copies for these guys? I knew I would get my paperwork.
It's okay.
I'm all right. So basically, it recites what neighborhood commercial is. It is a use which has, no, it doesn't. This is the law that was approved, and you will see that number 12 on page 2 is neighborhood commercial establishments as defined in the Baltimore City Code, Article 32, zoning, subsection 1310J. So basically, in the new zoning code, neighborhood commercial use is a generic use. You were just dealing with a generic use in the last case. It includes 7 sub-uses. It's not, you're not going to see it in here. This is the law which says in Chum, that use called neighborhood commercial is illegal. It's prohibited. So in that small area, and if you'll look at the back of your packets, you'll see a map of Chum. So this is not a city-wide bill. It's only an urban renewal amendment for that yellow area. That's a map of my district, the 14th. The yellow is Chum. This prohibition is limited to that area. That's what it is.
Okay.
Now, I did prepare, I'm sorry,
That's
well,
okay.
that's okay.
Just-
I did prepare.
And I understand that you likely have some further comments.
I do. Oh, and I'll be glad to make them when I'm in the proper order, but thank you for asking.
Thank you for bringing this updated legislation to our attention.
I wouldn't miss it for the world because I really knew it would be the first thing you asked for, but then I couldn't find it. But here you are.
That's fine. Okay. So, Mr. Gilbert, it appears as though there's been an intervening change in the law since your application was submitted. At this point, well, your request was to continue to use 3 dwelling units at the property and then to have and use the lower level as an office.
Oops.
Which was the proposal was to utilize the neighborhood commercial designation, which would permit the office. But it appears as though now the property being within the urban renewal area, Mr. French, you can tell me if you agree with this analysis, but the property being within the urban renewal area, it would appear as though that neighborhood commercial is no longer a permissible use in this area.
That would be the case. Had this amendment to the urban renewal plan been in effect at the time that the memo was written, we would probably have added as an additional reason for recommending disapproval that it would be unapprovable under the urban renewal plan.
Okay, all right. And conditional uses, one of the required findings is that, I think is touched on by Mr. French before, is that we have to find that it's not prohibited by, or the proposed use isn't prohibited by any other provision of law. Urban renewal plan would be that. And so here, the proposed office use would be, it's currently prohibited by law. So I guess now, so that portion the board wouldn't have the ability to approve. As I understand it, the house has been vacant and you're looking to utilize the 3 dwelling units in the property, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so that portion of your application would not be disturbed by this change in the law. And Mr. French, would that be your conclusion as well?
Not being a legal person, I would have to defer to the board's decision.
Understandable. All right. All right.
With that being said, this motion was supposed to be filed long beforehand, but Ms. Clark mentioned to me at the meeting whenever I met with her and a couple of these neighbors, I met with them twice. She said that her attorneys or her group was going to get me some paperwork prior to me filing this appeal right here. So that delayed me filing this appeal, so therefore I am delayed due to, she said that they were going to give me a list of requirements that I would have to meet for each of these apartments to be rented out. Meaning, they were going to have something written up that says, you can do these apartments, but you have to follow these guidelines, these guidelines, these guidelines. We waited, and then we filed this paperwork right here because we did not get any paperwork from them whenever I met with her and Mr. Washington.
You met with us on May, oh, sorry.
But that is fine. That's beside the point. The law is what the law is, but this should have been taken care of a month beforehand, you know, and I would have been grandfathered into that. But since this did just get brought up to our attention, is it possible to make an exception to the rule and follow the planning department's recommendation to use it as a apartment on the entry level? He calls it a basement. It's actually a entry level if you look at the photos right here. And with that paperwork right there, we have photos of 2000 East 30th Street that shows that it clearly looks like a entry-level commercial. It is larger property than all the other properties in the area. It was built that way. I own several other buildings in the area, and we have a few other mixed-use properties similar to this. Second page there shows that the property is much larger than all the other properties in the area. And then there's a map showing other commercial spots within 1 block, 2 blocks, 3 blocks of the said property. so it doesn't necessarily fall out of characteristic. And I'm directly next door to a multifamily property owned by the lady standing right here, 3 people down from me. I know this is sort of irrelevant at the time, but I do have signatures from 200 community members who were looking forward to some type of commercial building
I bet.
or grocery store.
Oh,
Actually, I
yeah.
got into an argument with many individuals because I do not want a grocery store, and it was brought to my attention that Councilwoman Clark, as well as Mr. Washington, said to me on numerous times that if you go into this building and you get permitted to use it as an office today, all you're going to do, Mr. Gilbert, is you're going to use it as a grocery store tomorrow. Once it is zoned as commercial, you can do whatever the heck you want with it. And that caused some of the delays for me to file this paperwork.
What? This is a
Which is
strange
neither here nor
universe.
there, considering the law is what the law is, and I'm 5 days late. 200 signatures from neighbors. I don't even know if you want to look at it because it's kind of irrelevant. It just simply says the commercial spot.
Okay, so as of right now, the board doesn't have the power to
Understandable.
authorize the neighborhood commercial use that you had sought approval for. So at this point,
But I would like to use the entry level as a residential.
okay, so then you would be seeking
That's all we want.
the
We could just-
additional, so you'd be seeking an additional dwelling unit that is
What?
to change from 3 dwelling units to 4.
Yes, sir.
It's 2 right now. It's 2 now.
As I started, folks, if we can just do it one at a time.
That's true.
If we can go just one at a time. As I started out at the beginning, the application was for permission to continue as 3 dwelling units and use lower level as office.
That's correct.
And we show that the last authorized use was for 3 dwelling units and a deli/grocery per a use and occupancy permit from 2000, well, that date is a little bit off. But I think that's to mean 2006.
What does it state on there?
13/23/06.
Oh, okay. Probably a little off.
So I'm guessing that that's a typo. But, so, there'd be an additional dwelling unit. Currently, you needed a variance to go, well, you needed a variance for the 3 dwelling units you already had, but since you already had those, that may not be an issue other than a potential abandonment issue. But you're seeking to go beyond that, and you're seeking to add another dwelling unit, which would further increase your required variance. Ms. French, would you be able to come up with the calculation for the minimum lot hearing quicker than me?
3950, 3,950 square feet, I believe, for the 4th dwelling unit, would be the total for all 4 dwelling units.
Say that again?
The requirement in the table is 1,500 square feet per dwelling unit, I believe.
Yes.
You got 1,300?
No.
Oh.
No. No. I'm sorry. I miscalculated that. It would be closer to 5,000 square feet, I believe, would be the requirement for 4 dwelling units. 3.5 times 15.
Okay.
And the lot area is considerably less than that. So yes, they would need a substantial variance in order to have that approved.
And I'm trying to find where this is located in the latest code. But to change from 3 DUs to 4, and it'd be one thing if you were going from a higher request to a lower request, but you're going from a lower request to a higher request, which I think is going to cause you to need to repost in order to modify your request. Just a moment.
Do what you want to do. You got, it's all right. It's like, I'm gonna let you guys take over. Just hang in for another minute to say,
Mr. Chairman,
Mm-hmm.
looking for 5205 for the reapplication waiting period.
No, I think it's under 5202. Because after an application is determined to be complete, any change made by the applicant to the application must be submitted to the zoning administrator and the board no later than 15 days before the date scheduled for the hearing to be held. Any later changes to the application must be made on the record at the hearing, which frankly you've done. But I'm looking for the posting requirement.
As a matter of practice, the board has typically accepted amendments and changes that are less intense and less than.
Yes.
But I'm not aware of anywhere in the code which allows the board to do the opposite and to accept something more than or more intense without reposting and filing a new appeal.
And that was my familiarity with our procedures. I just wanted to make sure that there was a source for that. 5, 6.
I don't have my code with me.
Number of posted plan consideration. Minor variances, major uses. Okay. So for major variances and conditional uses, the board must conduct a hearing at which all the parties in interest and the general public will have an opportunity to be heard. All agency reports will be read. Notice of a hearing is required. Notice of the hearing must be given by posting a conspicuous place on the property. Notice must include date, time, place, purpose of the hearing, address of the subject property, drawing description of the boundary areas affected by the proposed variances and conditional use, name of the applicant, how additional information can be obtained. Descriptions of the sign. And has to be posted 21 days before.
I think also with a substantial variance, it'd be appropriate for him to sit down with the neighborhood again. Means it's a different use.
Well, I think that
We'll have a recorder this time.
the use really isn't changing other than the elimination of the proposed commercial use. But the concern that I would have, sir, is that, as I had mentioned earlier, and as Mr. Baumgartner mentioned as well, it's typically our practice that where there is a reduction in the intensity of a requested use or variance, that those kind of modifications are permitted on the record on the date of the hearing. But given that you're looking to intensify your use or increase, that is to go from 3 DUs to 4, as well as increase the degree of variance that you're seeking, that's really not our practice to accept those kinds of changes without providing additional notice to the public. And so for that reason, I think that you need to, if you want to use the former commercial space as a dwelling unit, you need to repost the property to provide the additional notice that's required under the statute, provide that notice period, and then come back after that. If you posted that notice anytime between now and, say, a week from now, you would be able to get in on not the hearing, not our next hearing, obviously, because that's going to be on the 15th?
Yes.
But would be the 29th. So it would still be this month, but it would be the end of the month.
Wouldn't this be considered a reduction in my proposed usage, since I went from 3 dwelling units to a commercial to 4 dwelling units and they wanted residential to begin with?
No, because I'm not just concerned with the notice that's being provided to the residents here or to the opposition here. I'm more concerned with people who may be, who might have been comfortable with basically might have been comfortable with the trade-off of increased residential density in exchange for commercial, but now may not like the idea that there's going to simply be 4 residences without any kind of additional commercial use. The significance of the change from 3 DUs to 4 is that the property already needed a variance, a lot area variance for 3 DUs. Going to 4 increases the variance necessary under your lot area requirement.
So can we still proceed today with the 3 dwelling units and just forget the commercial spot?
If you wanted to not go forward with that at all, you could certainly do that. I think that if you wanted to use that other dwelling unit or that other space for a dwelling unit, as opposed to foregoing any use of it at all, you might be better served modifying your request, reposting and coming back with a request for 4. However, if you want to proceed with 3, you can certainly do that.
I will hold off and I will think about this and repost it as needed.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman, if I can interject real quick, It's not simply a matter of reposting. It would have to be refiled.
Sure.
And that would trigger.
Understand.
I just want to make sure that you weren't going to change the sign.
I
and
understand. I
come
have to
back.
literally
Okay.
start over from scratch day one.
Excuse me, one,
If I can for a moment. So what
just
you would
wanted to know
need to do, I will
you
postpone
own-
it on the record for right now.
Sure.
Okay, I'll postpone it on the record for right now. If you wanted to change your request, you would simply submit a new proposal with the zoning administrator, just with a drawing reflecting the fourth unit. Essentially, it's going to be the same filing. You're just simply putting in now a new drawing for the former commercial space, but now as a dwelling unit space, and withdrawing your previous application and submitting this one in its place. And then once you complete that process, you can initiate your appeal, and then you do your posting from there. So the sooner you initiate that process, the sooner that you'll be able to be back here.
Sure.
It's not like you have to, there's like some really long waiting period. I think that if you move on it expeditiously, you can probably be back here possibly by the 29th, but certainly not much longer than that if that's what you wanted to do.
Sure.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much, sir.
Councilwoman, do you have any?
yeah, I just, we have two persons here we've never met with, and I just want to make sure we know their relationship to the property, so.
I don't think that we need that on the record to the extent.
No, I don't know, but I just want to say it here, so.
My name is Tavon Terrell Marbell.
Yes, sir.
And my name is Tavon Terrell Marbell. I live at 2021 East 31st Street.
Let's back up a little bit. Tavon, what was your last name?
Marbell, Marabla. I do live in the neighborhood. I am an NSA agent overnight. I work at Fort Meade. I own 5 properties in the neighborhood. And also, in December, I came to my best friend and asked him to buy that building in my neighborhood to help my neighborhood to raise the property value up. Now, I'm not a fan of Mark. I respect Mark, and I'm not a fan of Murray Pat Clark
all I wanted to know.
devaluing my neighborhood. But if that's what they want to do, to set it, to devalue the neighborhood so they can have more house space for Johns Hopkins
Who owns
and go
the
around and pass these little laws and
Okay,
everything,
thank you,
you know.
thank you.
Folks,
Thank you. Thank you.
all right,
All right, then.
all right.
See you later.
Thank you.
See you in the neighborhood. Oh, we gonna fight, but we ain't done.
Well, it doesn't matter, it's okay.
All right, folks, if we could maintain some decorum as you leave the room, please.
Yes.
We do have business to conduct.
So will we come back for the 40 units? Yeah.
We're off the record, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Just wanna allow home run.
It's postponed for the record right now.
Yeah, we're out of here. Thank you, thank you.
Yeah. Next. Mr. Washington, please, we're trying to conduct business. Next, 2018-92. Folks, please, if we can keep the chatter to a minimum. 2018-92, 3665 Chestnut Avenue, Angie DeLuca.
I'm on the probe.
Yes. 2018-92, 3665 Chestnut Avenue, Medina Properties LLC, care of Angie DeLuca.
Yes, that's me.
Okay, all right. Ms. DeLuca, we have this as an application to construct a 2-story rear addition and rooftop deck at this location. Is that correct?
It's a rear addition and a rear deck.
Okay, so construct a 2-story rear addition and rear deck.
Correct.
All right. And ma'am, you can come forward and bend that microphone down. And once you do that, if you would please raise your right hand to be sworn.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, do we have staff reports?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
All right, Ms. DeLuca, why don't you talk to us about what's being proposed here?
Yes, good afternoon. The property is currently under renovation, and we're seeking for a small variance for the rear addition. It would be a 10-foot addition, all 3 levels, only on the rear of the property, and then a deck that extends off of the middle level, off of the kitchen.
All right. You said the property is currently under renovation?
That's correct. The existing structure.
Gotcha. Trying to see. All right, looks like currently, that's what I was looking for. The property doesn't go all the way to the property line right now. There's, can't quite tell the length of it, but it looks like there's a oops, sorry.
Sure.
These property lines going to? There's the streets. Looks like there's maybe a patio or something in the back.
Yes, sir. There was a dilapidated parking pad in the rear,
Okay,
which
All right.
on the current permit will be redone.
all right. So there was a parking pad back there.
The rear
And,
deck is off the first floor rear. It's,
Like, yeah, from the rear, it'll look like the middle level, the main level for the home.
yeah.
It would be off the kitchen.
okay. And how much of the rear does the parking pad cover?
10 feet.
10 feet, so.
10 feet in width,
Mhm.
and the length of the lot, I believe it's about 25 feet in
Okay,
width.
that's what I was looking for. All right, so effectively, the entire lot is covered with either building or impervious surface currently used for parking.
Except for the side yard. It is an end of group, so it does have a side yard in addition to the parking.
Yep, I do see that strip there. All right, and that's going to be retained?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and Councilwoman, do you have anything you'd like to offer?
I am extremely supportive of this appeal. This is a property that was a blighting, troublesome house for years. And then the problematic, troublesome people accidentally burned it down. The problem was nobody was hurt. The problem is it's an end of group, and it's on Chestnut, right across from Hampden Elementary School. If you see those row houses, and I don't have a photograph, if you see the row houses, they're really nice, and the porches are all connected with one complete, really nice porch roof from one end to the other, and they're very connected houses. So it wasn't just a Looney Tunes fire, it was one that affected all the rest of the neighbors, and a couple of them very seriously. They didn't live there for a year. They love this lady, Ms. DeLuca, and the people that are rehabbing this property. And the Hampton Community Council loves her and the work that's happening. We're so grateful. Because it's possible it wouldn't have been so good, but it is. So the only thing, and we've talked about this, is people had such bad experiences with that house that when they saw that it was being expanded, they just wanted to be sure that it wasn't like for a separate living space, that it would always be used as a single-family house. And Ms. DeLuca said she would be glad to agree that it would be.
That's correct. That's the plan, and the existing permits on file for the existing structure all reflect the proposed use of single-family.
We are very grateful.
Okay. Any questions?
Just leave with you guys also just a letter of support from the HCC,
Okay.
as well as the immediate neighbors next door at 3663 Chestnut. They were also very supportive of it. They were going to come today, but they couldn't
Bend that
get a sitter.
microphone back.
Sorry, they planned to come today, but they couldn't get a sitter at the last minute. But they are going to forward a letter that I can forward as well if need be.
Okay, sure. When you
Thank
get
you.
that, you can just send that in, and we can add that to the record at that time.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Sorry, I'm actually the house owner of 3661.
Oh,
I wasn't sure what the.
come on up.
Sorry. Wasn't sure what the process. Probably need to swear. I apologize.
I would say, unless it's really essential.
No, I'm just sort of. I'm sorry. My name is Chris Boyle. I'm the homeowner for 3661 Chestnut Avenue. I did speak with our neighbors,
All right,
3663.
Sir, if
Sorry?
you must speak, then
No, I'm
raise your
sorry.
right hand
I
to be
apologize. I really don't know how these things work.
Raise your right hand. You swear or affirm
Yes.
the testimony you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do. The only thing I was going to say is I do support what was going to be submitted by my neighbors who couldn't make it because they couldn't find a sitter. That was pretty much about it. We're actually really happy with what's going on.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Anything else? Anyone else? Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. 2018-93, 1623 through 33 East Lombard Street. Steve Tiedemann.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Steve Tiedemann. Standing to my left here is Kim Wireman.
Let's slow down a second,
Sure.
Mr. Tiedemann. All right. Sir, this is an application to use the premises as a neighborhood commercial establishment that is offices specifically. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Folks, if all those intending testimony can raise their right hands to be sworn.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
I do.
And do we have staff reports?
Yes, Planning Department has reviewed this application, noted that this particular property is located in the Washington Hill Historic District. The department therefore notes that approval of the application should be subject to the condition that all exterior changes to the property, including additions, demolitions, alterations, and signs, are completed in accordance with an authorization to proceed issued by the Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and Mr. Tiedemann, are those conditions offered by the Planning Department acceptable to you?
They are. Power Recovery Center would be the entity using the space, and they are acceptable, and they would stipulate to complying therewith.
Okay, and what is the proposed use?
The proposed use is Power Recovery Center currently owns or leases 6 buildings at 6 North Broadway, and then 5 buildings on the unit block of South Broadway. There's some misconception that we actually have a lot of people living there. We actually don't. There's about 8 people who are in residential treatment there. The remaining space is all used for our administrators and our counselors and therapists. And so as the opioid epidemic continues to ravish our location, our city, we have had increasing demand. As a matter of fact, most of the people who receive treatment from our location are outpatient. They receive services from throughout the city. We also have numerous crisis housing units that we provide. We're a 501c3, by the way. We provide at our expense throughout the city. And then some of those people come back to our main headquarters area to check in, to receive, to talk to their counselor, talk to their therapist. Right across Lombard Street from
If I may?
Yes.
What are you planning on doing at this location?
Oh, okay. We have therapists there. We'd be having them in offices. They would be doing their work. They might be meeting with clients in their office space. They may be holding small group sessions with clients. There's no additional clients that are going to be in the area. Those clients are all just going to be expanding to relieve some of the pressure that we have.
all of this, really, if you need to talk to Ms. Warman, she's the CEO. She's here to answer any of your questions about planned use and expectations.
Okay. So you said that there are going to be therapists using the office space, presumably seeing patients?
That's correct, yes.
Seeing clients.
You can pull it back.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. And what other services would be offered?
None, other than that, other than therapists and counselors engaging with their clients.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to get some information as far as the engagement with clients goes.
I'm happy to provide.
Are you
yeah.
talking about talk therapy, group therapy? Is there some portion of testing that goes on?
Yeah, no, excuse me, I misinterpreted your question. There would be individual and group counseling provided at the location. That's really it for this particular location. We're not putting any other services there. And we need the extra space because we'd like to become a little less crowded in our other facilities. Unfortunately, because of the epidemic, we need extra space. So.
Okay. And that information is kind of useful because neighborhood commercial establishment permits as far as non-residential uses that are allowed. Art galleries, art studios, daycare centers, offices, personal service establishments, restaurants, and retail goods establishments. So then the question becomes, well, what's an office? And then what's personal services establishment? Office is an establishment that engages in the processing, manipulation, or application of business information or professional expertise, whether or not it offers services to the public. Personal services establishment. It's frankly an unhelpful definition. This means an establishment that provides recurrent needed services of a personal nature. However, it provides some helpful illustrations. Typical examples include beauty shops and barber shops, tanning salons, animal grooming establishments, electronics repair shops, laundromats, dry cleaners, and tailors, certified massage therapists, or similar licensed professionals. This sounds, frankly, more like a health clinic. Which is, here we go, means a facility that is the definition of a healthcare clinic, a facility for the examination and treatment of individuals on an outpatient basis by one or more physicians, dentists, chiropractors, physical therapists, or other licensed healthcare practitioners. So it sounds more like the latter one. The issue there, though, is that under neighborhood commercial establishment, one of the permissible uses is not healthcare clinic. So I don't know that this would be approvable as a neighborhood commercial establishment.
May I be heard?
Yes.
Okay, I have a bench memo that I'll pass up to you here. I have copies for the other commissioners. The definition of office clearly fits what's being proposed here. We have professionals who are engaging in their expertise in this location. Now, you might want to call it a healthcare facility, you might want to call it some other type of business, that's fine. It fits under the definition of office, and that's why we wanted it approved under the definition of office.
Okay. And I can certainly understand that that's your position, although I think that going through the various definitions that are provided under the code, and I think that that the definitions that are provided are most useful in I guess in a comparative sense with one another. though in the literal sense, the definition of office talks about processing, manipulation, or application of business information or professional expertise. I don't know that there's processing, application, or manipulation of professional expertise per se that goes on in a therapy session. Though I think that what is done in that setting is examination and treatment of individuals, as you said, on a predominantly outpatient basis by one or more physicians, dentists, chiropractors, physical therapists, or other licensed healthcare practitioners. Now, I don't know that necessarily ends the story.
May I just add something? I'm not being legal, I don't want to overstep my bounds, but I think in hearing your reading of it, the healthcare clinic refers to medical professionals or health professionals physically examining someone. It seems to be the emphasis of it versus the office, which talks about a massage therapist who's a licensed therapist as an example of the use of an office. So I don't want to say, split hairs or whatnot. I'm here arguing because we need the damn space. So, yeah. And I know that's not, you have rules you have to operate under, but.
Just thinking of it as equating it more like a psychiatrist, or
and these are not medical.
Therapist,
yeah.
Who'd be providing mental health services to people on an outpatient basis, doing therapy sessions, etc. And the intention here really isn't focused, frankly, on your use. It's really focused more on, all right, well, this is a designation that's under the code, and then, how do we apply that generally across the entire city? Because there are a number of districts where neighborhood commercial establishments are potential uses, so when we have to sort of think about, okay, well, where can these be? What was the intent when implementing the code for where these uses should go? Now, I don't know if healthcare clinic is a conditional use or is otherwise approvable in this location, because if it is, then it's really kind of a distinction without a difference. Do you have any analysis on that, or do I need to kind of go through the code?
No, I mean, I think that the healthcare clinic is not under the same, under the neighborhood commercial establishment exception. I understand that. I just asked the board to consider that if you're looking at the purpose behind the code and the reasons why certain things are written the way they're written, if you look at the fact that what sort of traffic is expected at a, and I don't mean traffic, I mean foot traffic, auto traffic, is expected at a healthcare clinic where people are coming in for appointments. Here what we have is the same number of people, almost all of whom are either brought in by our vans or brought in by the MTA, coming to the same location that they're already coming, just going next door. So I understand you have to apply it evenly, but when you look at why there would be an exclusion to a healthcare clinic and not for an office that practices a certain expertise to the public or not to the public, we think that's clearly what's going on, but ultimately the decision is yours, not ours.
Did you have any conversations with the neighborhoods or the Lombard?
Well, we have an ongoing conversation with the Washington Hill Community Association. And in fact, when we purchased and started using 6 North Broadway, they were concerned about that. If you would let me pass up some copies of a memo that I put together about the good that we do in the neighborhood. I have an original and 3 copies here. I have actually more copies than that, but let me pass those up to the Madam Chairperson. And one thing is that we do talk with the association. We just went to an association meeting, and frankly, there are other properties open on Broadway that get closer, that get closer to the residential area of Washington Hill. This building is a vacant former daycare, former drug laboratory used years ago that has sat vacant for as long as I've known Powell. It sits behind a 7-Eleven that has a lot of, has a lot of traffic going around, and the building's not a blight, but it's just unused, and it's away from the residential section. And frankly, our work with the association has been to try to pool our activity as far off of Broadway and as far away from those residential sections as we can. And one other thing, the memo I just got up to you, I won't read it out loud or read it because it's pretty extensive. Just mentions the stuff that we've been doing in the neighborhood. We take care of it, we patrol it, we clean it, we do all sorts of things. Anyway, go ahead, Kim, I'm sorry.
And I just want to let you know, generally speaking, I mean, there are people that don't believe in treatment in the community, and we're not there to change their minds, but overall, we have a very positive relationship with the WHCA, and we engage with them. One of the reasons that we'd like to have this building is so that we can take the clients that we're serving right now in 6 North, which is a building we own, and move them into this building to spread them away from the residential area. If it makes any difference at all, I know the mayor's right across on the other side of the building. We had 23 people out for the mayor's cleanup day and hit it like Grant took Richmond. I know that's not important to you all, but it's important to us. So we really, really try to support the community.
I had asked if you'd had any conversations with the staff or PTA at Lombard.
The staff or PT at Lombard?
Yes. The junior high school?
The Freedom Academy, is which one?
Well, there's a school that's closed there. There's a school right across the street. Yeah, that school, I believe, is vacant. City Springs Elementary and Middle School, I think, are on the other side, but that school is vacant. We're very careful about our role in the community.
What you'll read in there is we actually have a patrol that goes around 2 or 3 times a day, 2-mile circular campus. We have on-the-block staff, 7 to 10 people that are there during the day, on the Saturday and Sunday when treatment's going on. So we make sure that our people are not down at the middle school, et cetera, et cetera. I'll let the document speak for itself. So.
Okay, I think we're just going to have to sort of parse through this and figure out sort of where the designations fit best. But I think we've got an understanding of the proposed use, and we just need a little bit more time to get through the code.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you all very much.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Take care. Next, 2018-94, 242 North Milton Avenue, Michael Simons.
Good afternoon, y'all. My name is Oral Singh. I'm the landlord of the building.
All right, sir, can you say that name again?
Oral Singh, O-R-A-L. Sing like you sing a song with an H.
Okay, so S-I-N-G-H.
That's correct.
And first name is O-R-A-L?
That's correct.
Okay. And with you is?
Mr. Simmons, proposed tenant to what we're filing for to get the approval.
All right, and folks, we have this as an application to use as a neighborhood commercial establishment, to wit, a restaurant. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. If all those intending to give testimony can raise their right hands to be sworn.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right, do we have staff reports?
Planning Department has reviewed this application, noted that this structure does qualify for the proposed use, and has no objection to the application. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, yes, Mr. Simons, why don't you tell us about what you're intending to do with the property?
I'm intending to open Caribbean store, restaurant.
Okay. What kind of food are you looking to?
Caribbean food, like curry chicken, jerk chicken also.
Okay, so a Caribbean restaurant?
Yeah.
Okay. And I know that you've got a restaurant with seating area here, and then preparation behind the counter.
Yeah.
Do you have any prior experience in the restaurant industry?
Yeah, I've been working with my friend for about 4 years now, on 4201 Siena Avenue.
Okay, and what kind of restaurant do you operate there?
That restaurant is also a Caribbean restaurant too.
Okay, what's it called?
The Blue Pelican.
All right.
4201 Siena Avenue.
All right, and you're looking to do similar kind of thing
Yeah.
here as you're doing there? All right. Do you have anything like a proposed menu or anything like that, or you just haven't gotten to that point yet?
Let's not get to that point yet.
All right.
Your floor plan is showing 3 tables. I'm assuming you'd have more tables in that restaurant than 3. Is that correct?
Can I answer that for him?
Sure.
If it does permit, according to permits will be pulled, I'll discuss that with planning, whatever it's required there, I'll get it done according to the will of their jurisdiction. If it's more tables, yes. If it's not, I'll do the accommodation what's required. Well,
okay.
Well, it's not so much what required as, speaking of Mr. Simmons, from your business plan, I mean,
Yeah.
is this more of an eat-in restaurant? Is
No,
this a
it's
carry-out
more
restaurant?
like it's a. I'm a guy like this. I don't like to people hike. If you're not working, you can stand. So you take out and go, buy and go, take out. Mostly like a takeout restaurant.
This would be mostly like a takeout?
Yeah, we really have about 3 tables. That is it, and facility room, washroom, and so bathroom. But mostly like a takeout.
Okay, and I think I did see that.
Is your other restaurant a carry-out, take-out?
No, it's a takeout too. The other one is a takeout too.
So it's not a sit-down restaurant?
It's not really a sit. No, it's a takeout.
All right. Yeah, see you've got the bathrooms there in the front.
Yeah, on the front. So I require about 2 or 3 tables on the front. So.
Okay. All right, any other questions? All right. Thank you.
oh, thank you all. Have a good evening.
All right, 2018-95, 4008 Main Avenue, Rowan Monroe. Afternoon, ma'am. You're Ms. Monroe?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and Ms. Monroe, we have this as an application to use the basement and the portion of our first floor of the premises as a daycare center for 12 children. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Ma'am, if you would, please, raise your right hand to be sworn.
You swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Do we have staff reports?
Yes, Planning Department has reviewed this application, noted in a situation similar to the case the board has previously heard. This property is located on Main Avenue, which at this location is only 3 lanes wide with parking permitted on both sides of the street. This therefore raises again the same question about obtaining a designation of a passenger loading zone in front of this property in order to allow for safe drop-off and pickup of children. The department recommends approval of the application be subject to the condition that the applicant requests designation of a passenger loading zone in front of this property. This would be from the Parking Authority of Baltimore City. Thank you.
Can I interject? Thankfully, I have a driveway. I have a 3-car driveway. I also have a 4-car garage. And the driveway goes halfway to the back of the facility, so it's possible for people to come all the way up, drop off, and leave without interrupting. In addition, there's a 2, sorry, sorry. 2-car street parking available and 2-car parking pad at the back available. It's a very large backyard.
Yes, I see that.
Access.
Mr. French, can you state the conditions again?
Yes, the condition was that there be a request by the applicant for a passenger loading zone to be established in front of the property. That request would be considered by the Parking Authority of Baltimore City. The department is aware of the driveway. However, the department does not consider use of a driveway where people would pull in and then back out as safe as a passenger loading zone parallel to the curb.
And so that we can be clear, the condition that you're offering is that the applicant merely request, not obtain.
Correct, because it is the determination of the Parking Authority of Baltimore City whether it's appropriate to have a passenger loading zone in front of that property.
Correct. So then it would be envisioned that the applicant could satisfy the condition by requesting the passenger loading zone. It could be denied, and yet the applicant has satisfied the condition. Is that?
That would be correct.
Okay. Ma'am, so do you understand the nature of the request or the condition that's being offered by the planning department?
So I simply need to request.
That's correct.
Okay.
It's basically, you apply to, I think there was just some paperwork that you fill out with the, is it Department of Transportation?
No, it's the Parking Authority of Baltimore City.
Rather. You fill out with the Parking Authority, and then they consider the request, whether to grant it or not, and that's really all you need to do. Otherwise, as you said, there are some facilities that are located at the property, both the driveway, though, the driveway, though it certainly allows cars, if you got like 2 people arriving at the same time, somebody's going to be boxed in.
It is possible to drive all the way to the alley. Is that an option?
I didn't see that currently reflected, though certainly you could, if you wanted to make that alteration or that accommodation, you may be able to do that. I'm not entirely sure. But in any event, the important thing here is that you don't really need to do anything other than offer what you're already offering, which is, there's ability to drop off in the back, and there's ability to drop off in the front via the driveway, and then you just simply need to make the request of the parking authority. You wouldn't need to, put it into the driveway or anything like that. Okay? All right. So with that said, why don't you talk to us about your proposed daycare use?
All right, so I'm a certified teacher in Baltimore City. I've taught early childhood, K through 12, juvenile detention center, and I feel that I can bring a lot to my current community. It's a high-crime area, and we have a lot of parents who have to go all the way outside of this zone to actually get care. Bringing a science-based early childhood program to this area, and I'm hoping that my neighbors seem happy with the proposal. I haven't had any complaints so far. I've worked in Baltimore City since 2012. I'm hoping that these services are favorable for the 2 schools in that area, Calvin Rockville and Liberty Elementary. We also have a minimum of 6 apartment complexes in that direct area, and we also have a healthcare center that I'm sure Bridge Park Healthcare Center, people require facilities and services. So I just want to make sure that they have an option within a 2 to 5 minute area that is compatible to their needs.
Okay. You said that there is a garage that's located in the rear of the property?
Yes, it's a very large garage. I think it's a 4-car garage. There is also space for a 2-car parking pad, and the driveway can fit 3 cars, and it can be extended all the way to the back if necessary.
Okay. I was thinking more as far as parking for your employees. How many employees would you have?
Currently 3.
Okay. So they could park in that garage in the rear, correct? Mm-hmm. All right. All right. Any other questions?
No.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
2018-96, 1934 East 38th Street, Hal Arnold. 2018-96, 1934 East 28th Street.
Hello, I'm sorry.
Mr. Arnold.
Yes, good afternoon.
Afternoon, sir. We have this as an application to use the premises as 2 dwelling units. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Folks, if all the, you two have already been sworn, Mr. Arnold and with you, sir, if you intend to give testimony, if you would raise your right hand to be sworn.
Swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
All right. And do we have staff reports?
Thank you. Planning Department has reviewed this application and has no objection. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Mr. Arnold, why don't you talk to us about what's being proposed here?
1934 East 28th Street's a corner building. The property was previously owned and 2013 was approved. The previous owner left the property, whatever. Now there's a new owner and basically bought the building with the intent of the same, use of the 2 buildings. But since it's been vacant over a year, it goes back to single family. I have the letter from the Department of Zoning, which says that it was granted, but because, whatever the owner previously didn't proceed to continue the permitting process and complete the use. So now the new owner wants to continue the use that was previously granted in 2013.
Okay.
I don't know if you have a layout. I actually have a floor plan, but it's submitted for the permit, and zoning is required to update the use because it was vacant, over a year. So, it's probably the same thing. You have a small one. I just have, full set. So you can have that as well.
Okay. Is this to add into the record?
Yeah, that's just a floor plan, but it shows what we submitted for the permit. But now we have to get BMZA approval before we can get, begin the work and have the use of 2 dwelling units.
I see this is a triangular.
Yes, it's a corner unit. Yeah, it has a kind of odd shape.
Corner unit, so it's a corner unit that then had an extra built on side to it too, so the property is massive. If we had to do it as a single dwelling unit, it would have just stayed vacant, right, because there's not, it's $150,000 construction project in that neighborhood. All we're trying to do is just do it legally, do it the right way. That's it. Brian, first name is Brian. Last name is
Okay, and folks, is that it for right now?
Yes.
All right, Councilwoman.
Mark Washington's going to go through the philosophy we have at this point in that community for lowering density whenever there is an opportunity to do so, and we are in opposition. At least I believe I'm correct that this is a 34% variance that's being requested. I don't know.
That's correct.
I looked at the floor plans, but it was very hard for me to understand the size of the units. That's just because I'm not used to looking at floor plans. And I know the building, it is indeed what the gentleman says. It's long and runs along Hill and Road. we've had a lot of problems in the Chum area with crowded, like, rooming houses. I know that's not what's being proposed. And crowded housing conditions. And and one rooming house caught fire because it had too many electrical sockets in it, about 2 weeks ago. That's just one of the kinds of things that had Chum adopt the philosophy and practice of trying to reduce density wherever possible. In this case, with a 34% variance, if I'm right, that's really high. And I would like the board to consider that. These seem like gentlemen who care a lot about the property. But we have this commitment, so I support it because I've seen some of the outcomes of it. Yes.
And when we get back to you.
Okay. You'll have the last word. No, well, that's how it works.
Sir, the way that I said we were going to be proceeding is that you were going to start, then we were going to go, and then we'll go back to you.
Yeah.
So yes, we'll hear from you. Mr. Washington.
So, the 1900 block of 28th Street is within the Tivoli Triangle, and we had this conversation about this property with the Commissioner of Housing, Michael Braverman. Currently, we're clearing that area and part of 28th Street for construction of single-family homes. The RFP goes out this month, request for proposals. We're looking to construct 2,000 square foot single-family homes along 28th Street, Tivoli, Fenwick, and Hugo. Lately, we've been inundated by individuals from outside the neighborhood that are gobbling up these properties, trying to cobble them up into multifamily dwelling units, which is not consistent with the community's development objectives.
You understand that that's something that's permitted under law?
Yes, I understand that it's permitted under law.
It's been vacant since at least, say, 2013?
Yes, we understand that, which is...
So in the intervening 5 years, no one has stepped forward to redevelop this property for a single family or any other use?
Well, that's where I'm headed to at this, if I may. So we sent over earlier to Mr. Baumgartner and all the plans dating back to 2008 for that area. Currently, we're working with Transced to acquire properties in the area for single-family home development. We have no objection to them doing single-family home development in that area. But if we're looking to transform the community, then the community's plans, as approved by the planning department and supported by housing, has to be something that bears weight here. I mean, the end result is the appraisals came back for what we're attempting to do on that 28th Tivoli, Fenwick, Hugo area. The appraisals came back at $245,000. And what we're seeing right now is...
And we had a housing crisis in around 2008 that was predominantly caused by significantly overvalued housing by way of appraisals.
Right, and that's why we don't believe the property that we're developing is overvalued. It's the reason why we took so long to bring it online. Reason being is, one, it sits right across the street from a golf course, a historic mansion, has views of the downtown skyline, 2 blocks of Lake Montebello, and sits in the backyard of one of the most historic institutions in the country, City College High School. Now, we have a tour coming up on that area May 18th with Live Baltimore, where we're walking with Live Baltimore and other developers through the area, along with Transced, to show them properties that we believe they can acquire for redevelopment in a single-family use. But if you all deem that it is in the best interest of the community going forward and the transformational nature of which we're operating to increase the density when we're looking to decrease it and provide single-family construction, that's a decision that you all will have to make. I will leave you all with one last word, and this comes from Bill Cole, who is working with us on redevelopment of the commercial strip. And he said, please do not let investors come in here and take these small homes or even the large ones that we have, because we have some homes that are in excess of 2,000 square feet, and cobble them up into multifamily dwelling units, because that only depresses the overall market. And I take Bill at his word. So if the community's development objectives matter, if the RFP that's going out for single-family construction to include 28th Street matters if the fact that we're working with housing and community development to bring that area back and eliminate multifamily dwelling units has any bearing. I ask you all to stand with us in opposition, and I encourage the gentleman to just convert to a single-family dwelling unit. Thank you.
They're going to be doing single-family rehabs in this block of 28th Street?
Yes.
And they're vacant presently?
Some are vacant. As a matter of fact, we met with Michael Braverman last Wednesday. The group from Transit has started acquiring properties on 28th Street as well as Garrett Avenue. We sat with Michael, Steve Baldwin from Transit, and Wendy Redfern Curtis. And we went over areas of targeted acquisition. Obviously, Transit wanted to acquire next and adjacent to where the new construction is about to happen, which is why they targeted 28th Street, because 28th Street is going to be included in that development as well as Tivoli, Fenwick, and Hugo. And they wanted the impact of that new construction to have an impact on the single-family homes that they're looking to renovate. Thank you.
Mr. Arnold.
Well, I would just include that this property is somewhat of a unique property. I'm pretty much a design consultant. I probably designed the property on every street in Baltimore, PG County, half of DC. The way the building is shaped and the size of the building would be kind of awkward for a single family. The side of the building sits off and then it goes up and there's a basement. So the use of the building as two dwelling units just seems like it makes sense. Single family housing and affordable housing, I think, is good. You know, sometimes it's overrated, but sometimes it's not realistic. So the application for the property, we would consider the best use. And I think that the owner bought the property with the notice that it was already granted and basically had the whole intent of reusing it for that use. And that's why we went and proceeded to have this zoning appeal request.
And sir, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, as it pertains to the property, we originally, before we purchased the property, checked, did our due diligence, looked downtown, looked at the records, and it was zoned properly for 3 units at that point. We actually scaled back as we talked about what we could possibly do there. Me and Hal talked about the dwelling unit situation. They have a picture of the front of half.
Oh,
That's only half.
okay, I
That-
saw you.
No, I'm just saying, so that's, they have a picture of half, it's another whole structure. So the issue that we're having there is that all we wanna do is do everything above board. We're a licensed contractor, we a licensed property management company. We do everything above board, pull permits, do these hearings, do everything we need to do. So we're not trying to come in there and do rooms or jam a bunch of people in there. It's one large single-family residence that's gonna be 4, 2.5.
Correct?
It's the whole thing on the side of the
Yes, I understand that. My purpose of showing you that is to show you that we're quite cognizant of what the property looks like.
Yeah, no,
in the
she was-
picture. And we also have, well, the point is, we don't really rely on just the parties to provide us with information. We have it ourselves.
So, yeah, and as, like I said, as it pertains, all we're trying to do is do quality construction, pull the proper permits, do everything above board, put 2, there's gonna be 1 family on the one side, and it's another 1-bedroom dwelling unit, and it will be professionally managed by a professional company. So we're not trying to, we're just trying to do what we can. That property was vacant when we picked it up, along with 100 other vacants in that area. We also have other properties that we do manage over there. I have 2 on 29th Street, one that we've had repeated problems because of the other vacants over there with people breaking into the property. So we're trying to do what we can in that area as well, trying to help out to get these vacants off the street, so.
Are your other rentals single-family or multi?
Yeah, we have singles and we have multis, but over there we have 2 other singles because they're smaller units. If it was just the 1 single unit, then we would easily just do it as a 1. But it's literally, that space was 3 units before. And we're converting it back down, taking one of the units out and converting it into a 2 unit.
Any further questions?
Oh.
Remember I said.
Oh, okay.
One last comment. Because the property was previously owned and was granted multifamily or single family, well, 2 dwelling units, I guess we'll call it. does that, I mean, I know that I talked to Charles Lee, I talked to people in Zone, it doesn't mean we can get it again, but because we got it, does that even take into
So
consideration?
the only issue that we have in front of us is a variance for lot size.
Okay.
Okay?
Understand.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, 2018-97, 3825 Fairview Avenue. Mr. Arnold.
Same thing.
Okay.
Can I go back? Is there-
No.
Nope.
Okay. Mr. Arnold, we have this as an application to use the premises as 4 dwelling units. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Mr. French.
Thank you. Planning Department has reviewed this application and has no objection to it.
Thank you. All right. Yeah, the same parties were in the last case. You all are still under oath. All right. Mr. Arnold, why don't you tell us about what's being proposed here?
This property is in West Baltimore. I guess I don't know if it's called Forest Park, but it's right up at Garrison, on 1 block. I guess you would say south on Fairview. It's a large building for that area. Most of the buildings there are row houses, but on this particular corner, the building was built to be an apartment house, and it was an apartment house, but obviously the building has become vacant, and the purchase was required so we could actually bring the upgrade back up to 4 dwelling units. Again, I do have the layout of this. You may have it, but excuse me, sir. This is the actual building itself. It's 1 apartment on each floor, so there's an apartment on the lower level, 1st floor, 2nd, and 3rd floor. It's just kind of like stacked as far as the bathrooms and the kitchens. And the rear egress is required for the second means of egress from each unit. And so we know the building meets the zoning requirements as far as the uses. It's just a question of, since it's been vacant again, we want to upgrade it and bring it back. So I mean, I can't imagine any other use, other than 4 units. The size of it and the way the building is built, it's already set.
Okay, I do see that the lot here, it looks like it's a little bit bigger than most of the others
Corner unit, yes.
on that row, and then even the ones adjacent to it and around the other side of the street.
There's a couple other large multis, like in that, within the 2 blocks right there.
Yeah.
This one, we were working with the local church right there on the corner, owned this property, and also owned 3 other single-family dwellings right there. And the deacon of the church said that they just they ran out of the manpower and the chutzpah to kind of put that thing back together. Reached out to one of my contacts, put us in contact, and that's how we got this one. That's what we're kind of, again, same thing as a lot, just trying to put it back together the right way, pull the permits, do everything above board, get it professionally managed, get another vacant out of that area, and hopefully give back to the community, put some affordable housing back out.
Okay. Any questions?
Nope.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I actually have one more.
I was going to say, Mr. Arnold, I believe you have another case.
There's one last one.
Which is 2018-101, 1819 West Lexington Street. All right, and Mr. Arnold, we have this as an application to use the premises as 3 dwelling units. Is that correct? All right. Do we have staff reports?
Planning Department has reviewed this application and has no objection. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Arnold, let's say regarding this application. Yes, Mr. Arnold, you understand that you're still under oath.
This particular property, 1819 West Lexington Street, was, we went for an appeal a little over 2 years ago, and it was requested that we get support from the community and things like that. We did that, and I actually have letters from the whole neighborhood and the community. Next door neighbors were very important. Petition and the whole community, they signed the petitions and the letters of support that they have no two-car garage in the rear. So we have off-street parking, already existing. One off-street parking in the front and the two-car garage in the back. I have the letter we went to the church on Baltimore and Central at the Community Association meeting, and I got the support from all those. And then the one guy that was, it was a new city councilman, I think his name is John Bullock, who gave us support. And the zoning board has a little bit of changed a little bit now when some of the zoning appeals, if it's I think it was a R8, had to go through city council, write a bill and go back and forth. This one went a little bit different way because now it's still, we don't have to go through it. We can just do it through the zoning appeal process. So zoning is changed a little bit, so I got to keep up with the laws. But I do have the letters of support from the community, and we walked around the community and asked people what their how they felt about it, and they actually, signed and said that, it's a vacant building. It's very large, and again, that large unit, it's hard to sell a property to get appraised to make sense. Very simple layout, one apartment on each floor with the rear egress, and of course the parking garage on the back. And I got a picture of the building, whatever that means, and I got a little, simple floor plan. I don't know if you want that, but that's it. So we basically, we went to the community, they thought it was okay, they said go to the community, get their support, and based on that we can make a decision. And one last thing, the owner, a friend of mine, Anthony Hooks, is an actual inspector, and he had a partner, and one of the problems was, believe it or not, his partner had went through a divorce, and he just couldn't handle any kind of financial obligations, so basically he backed out. So that's why it took us a year or so to actually do the appeal and get these resources together so we could actually complete, what it would require in order to do the renovation on the property. So that was a separate issue that was, that was worked out, so to speak. And that's it.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you.
Okay, have a great day. Thank you for your time.
You too. (2018-99), 1700 West 41st Streets, Union Craft Brewing Co. LLC, care of Caroline Hecker.
Good afternoon. For the record, Justin Williamson, law firm Rosenberg Martin Greenberg, from my colleague Caroline Hecker, and John Zarovitz, the co-founder and director of marketing for Union Craft Brewery.
Afternoon, folks. Mr. Williams, we have this as an application to add live entertainment to an existing tavern with permitted outdoor dining. Is that correct?
It is a proposed tavern, not open yet, but otherwise the application is correct.
Okay. All right. If all those intending to give testimony will raise their right hands to be sworn, please.
You swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Do we have staff reports?
Yes, Planning Department has reviewed this application, noted that this property is in fact one of the more appropriate ones for the proposed use in the city of Baltimore with regard to the live entertainment being added to it. The reasons being largely geographic. The department recommends approval of the application subject to these conditions. On-site parking facilities are developed and maintained in accordance with a site plan approved by the Planning Department. A copy of the use and occupancy permit for the premises must be kept on the premises and available for inspection by representatives of Baltimore City at all times. A copy of the written approval by the board of the live entertainment provided on the premises, including details of any restrictions or limitations on live entertainment provided, must be kept on the premises and available for inspection by representatives of Baltimore City at all times. And a copy of all other permits and licenses required pursuant to the written approval of the board must be kept on the premises and available for inspection by representatives of Baltimore City at all times. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Williams, are those conditions offered by the Planning Department acceptable to your client?
Yes, they are.
Right. Why don't you tell us about what's being proposed here?
I'll be brief since it's a long afternoon. This is application from Union Craft Brewing to get live entertainment at their new facility. Their existing facility is at 1700 West Union Avenue across JFX from the proposed facility. They're really respected and popular local brewery. There's some awards or articles from the paper showing their awards and how well they've been received in the community. They have been so successful, they are seeking to expand, so they acquired the facility at 1700 West 41st Street. That allowed them to triple their capacity and have a larger tap room. Their current facility at 1700 Union Avenue has live entertainment and outdoor seating at their tap room, and so they're seeking to do the same thing as new facility at Union Collective. There's in the exhibits I've given to you, this is an aerial photo showing the site. It's a good space for the facility. It's down the hill from West 41st Street, separated from the residential community by trees and a large steep slope. At the Union Craft's new facility, the brewery will feature a tap room with a 40-seat bar and 18 taps full of where people can drink Union Craft brewed beer, and outdoor beer garden will provide a view of the beer house. The unique part about the Union Collective facility is that Union Craft is partnering with some other local makers and creative types to have tenant spaces within Union Collective. So the whole building is 138,000 square feet. The brewery will take about 50,000 square feet. The remainder will be occupied by their users. The common space within this facility has been approved by Liquor Board already to have a license so patrons can take alcohol beverages from the tap room and walk around and enjoy the maker spaces and sample the ice cream that's being made, or go to the Earth Treks facility and watch people rock climb, that sort of thing.
We're drinking beer.
Before, or just watch.
I was thinking
Sense of adventure.
The tap room itself will operate as a traditional tavern where patrons will go to the bar within the tap room area to purchase a beer. All tap room staff will be trained and have alcoholic safety requirements training. The parking, there's a parking table. There's another question about parking. There's a table in the outline I've given to you that shows the parking requirements. There are 106 parking spaces required for the facility under the zoning code. We're providing 133 parking spaces. That's shown in the site plan. It's one of the last exhibits. In there. The hours of operation will be generally until 8 p.m. on weeknights and 10 p.m. on the weekends, although if there's a demand that could expand or go later. It's a good facility, as Mr. French pointed out, to have live entertainment secluded and away from residential communities. The capital investment for the project is anticipated to be in excess of $15 million, and they'll anticipate creating more than 100 new jobs once Union Craft's up and running. I've included actually, I'll give you more specifics about the live entertainment that's proposed. They anticipate providing mostly acoustic music and/or a DJ. It'll be like a more of a background music type thing. There's no dance floor requested. The new zoning code sometimes it goes back and forth on using live entertainment and dancing, or just live entertainment. We don't specifically want to have dancing, but it's not footloose, so we like to have some dancing if people are moved to move their body in rhythm. There's been no, as I mentioned, there's been no problems at the current facility with live entertainment, and we think it'll be a great amenity to add to the Union Collective facility here. I've added the standards you should consider when approving conditional use. I can go through them if you like, but otherwise I'll answer your questions.
Where's the live entertainment going to go?
The license plan. Oh, this one. Yep. So the license premises for the liquor board approved the Class D license to extend within the bolded area here, the plan exhibit.
Okay.
So that'll be the liquor license premises. Primarily, the live entertainment will occur in the brewery tap room area, but occasionally, if a tenant wants to have live entertainment, we'd like them to be able to do so other places within the facility, as the liquor board would approve people to have drinks in other parts of the facility.
Okay. So you're looking for live entertainment to be generally located throughout this entire space, which I think you said is like 50,000 square feet?
The entire space is 138,000 square feet. The brewery facility itself is 50,000 square feet. The tap room is even smaller. The tap room is
7,000 square feet.
Okay. But you wanted it to be in its entire bolded area?
We like the approval to extend to that entire area. There will not be it won't be a large concert venue. This is an accessory to the existing uses that will be there. There will, any larger gatherings will be in the tap room facility. There will be a small stage there when there is a performer there. But again, it won't be a large nightclub or a rave. There's 8 separate tenant spaces with demised walls where users will be there, office uses and.
And I think you said that you'd like the permission to extend to those particular user spaces as well, right?
At a minimum, the common areas, so it was in line with the liquor board's approval for licensed premises.
And unlike the sort of arena concept for liquor licenses, I think the live entertainment provision of the code requires a specific location for live entertainment to be located within the occupied space. So I hear what you're asking for. I'm just not sure that the code kind of envisioned that type of more generalized use.
Well, Director Trench, the tap room plan, again, this would be the primary area where the live entertainment, the large portion of it would be concentrated. We wanted to provide the opportunity and the possibility of an acoustic guitar perhaps being in the hall down on the other side of the facility.
Okay, so, just looking at the code, it says additional requirements for application. The application for conditional use authorization to provide live entertainment or dancing must include a floor plan that describes in sufficient detail, 1, the establishment generally, 2, the live entertainment or dancing venue within the establishment. So, as I understand it, the establishment that we're looking at is that entire bounded area.
Yes, which will be less than the entire building.
Well, but the entire building really isn't up for consideration at this point. It's just simply the occupied space, that is the commercial space. I mean, you're not looking to have patrons back where you got the tanks and stuff.
Correct. We want it to be coterminous with the licensed premises that the liquor board approves, so there's no question that the liquor board grants the live entertainment privilege to our license that all they'll say, well, this only applies here and not there.
Yeah. And, that was kind of what my point was about, the liquor board has the concept of like arena licenses where, it's covers an entire premises. And when the live entertainment statute was written, I don't think it was written with that same kind of flexibility. To allow, general location within an area. Certainly not as I see it, just in that section of the code that I talked about.
Respectfully, I think it is a broader concept. For example, hotels might concentrate the live entertainment in the ballroom or a restaurant, but when you grant the live entertainment privilege, it includes the entire hotel, for example, or other examples.
Yeah, if I may, sorry. I can't help myself. I mean, if you're approving a live entertainment, I don't think it's necessary to identify every possible location where live entertainment might occur within a a particular area. In this case, there's a designated stage area in the tap room, and anything that would be performed from a stage would be performed there. We're not proposing to have stages located elsewhere within the premises. The premises is, as Mr. Williams mentioned, smaller than the entire building. Union Collective is larger than just this space, but this covers the Union Craft space as well as several of these other maker spaces. And if, for example, I use this purely as a hypothetical, Earth Treks wanted to have, a small guitar player, small little thing going on in the climbing gym for, background music, then this would theoretically cover that. But anything that was sort of bigger that required a stage and a, sound system and whatnot, that would all occur within the tap room on the stage that's shown on the plans.
Okay.
I would add for the record that the community's been consulted for the past several years in this project. This property's been rezoned with Councilman Pinkett's support, and the Medfield community's been wildly supportive of the project, and Union Craft has a good track record of operating in the current facility now.
Okay. Anything further?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
And 2018-105, 1901 Mosher Street, Shamir Smith. Afternoon, ma'am.
How you doing?
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Okay, and Ms. Smith, we have this as an application to use the portion known as 922 North Monroe Street as a neighborhood commercial establishment, to it a beauty salon. Is that correct?
Yes.
Ma'am, if you would, please raise your right hand to be sworn.
Swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
We have correspondence with our office from the Western District Community Relations Council and the Fulton Community Association combined that is in opposition to this appeal. We also have a letter from a resident that is in support of the venture.
Thank you. Planning Department reviewed this application, and the department's recommendation turns largely upon the actual physical property in this situation. The proposed use is something which is eligible for neighborhood commercial establishment classification. However, the building itself on this property is one which presents an issue, and that is that the original house, which is the two-story portion of the improved premises, was originally built as a single-family dwelling and has not been, or was not, substantially altered in the 20th century at least, to create a commercial use on the ground floor or street level. Behind that building is an attached addition, which was apparently purpose-built as a commercial use, or for commercial use, I should say. Therefore, the department is recommending disapproval of the application in its present form, which is to use the larger portion of the existing structure as the neighborhood commercial use, because this portion of the property does not appear to qualify for neighborhood commercial establishment as one originally constructed and used for non-residential use. However, the department would have no objection to use of the rear portion of this property. The existing structure has a single-story addition known occasionally, according to the report, as 922 North Monroe Street for the proposed use. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Ma'am, do you understand the position of the Department of Planning?
Yes.
Okay. Then looking at your floor plan here, it looks like you're proposing to move forward in the front portion of the house. So my question is, what's wrong with the rear portion?
The rear portion is actually smaller than the front part, but the previous owner was running a salon. I don't know.
Doing it illegally.
Yeah.
But the neighborhood commercial concept is a new concept that came with the enactment of the zoning code last year. So the limitations imposed with the neighborhood commercial establishment classification may not have been, probably wasn't something that the prior operator may have had to deal with.
Well, I'm willing to amend the application to use the rear portion of the facility.
Okay. Say that what we would need there would be a floor plan reflecting it.
Okay.
Do you know what's back there at all? Or?
It was a barber shop back there.
Okay.
So
So it would just really be putting the salon in where there had been a barber shop. Do you know how recently the barber shop had been in operation?
I'm not sure about the barber shop, but I know the salon was just recent up until December.
Okay. Okay. Portion, the back portion. I'm just trying to think of if we need to. No, I think that we can. I think that we can proceed with just amended drawings.
Okay.
When do you think you could have those in?
Probably, what's today? Today is Tuesday, probably by Thursday.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
So just, who am I turning it into?
I'm sorry?
Who will I?
Oh,
You can either drop it off at our offices,
Okay.
you can email it, or you can mail it to us, whichever you prefer.
do you have cards there?
You're welcome.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, and we will go off the record. Well, you did it. Yes. Well,